Mayor of Kingstown is criminally underrated. It is one of those shows that doesn't need to overdo the action to keep you locked in. It's well crafted, easy to follow, and packed with tension that feels real instead of forced. Which this show is criminally underrated on the surface. It fits right in with popular crime dramas like Power, Oz, Peaky Blinders, and The Wire. The difference is perspective. This show doesn't just follow the streets. It doesn't just follow the cops, and it doesn't just follow the prison system. It follows all of it. Law enforcement, gang members, prisoners. More importantly, it shows how all of these groups are connected, how communication exists even where it shouldn't, and how unspoken systems keep everything from falling apart. At the center of this system is Mike McCluskey. Mike isn't a hero. He isn't a villain. He's the mediator. He speaks to police, gangs, and inmates alike, operating in the gray area where rules bend and consequences are unavoidable. His job isn't to fix the system. His job is to keep it from collapsing. That's why Mayor of Kingstown stands out. It's not just a crime show, it's a study of control and the fragile balance holding a broken town together. And once you see that the balance starts to crack, you realize how quickly everything can burn. Don't remember how season 1 starts? The opening tells you everything you need to know. The show opens with Mike handing a kid a tennis ball filled with drugs, which is then hit over the prison wall that's then passed from prisoner to prisoner as Mike monologues. He explained that he's the link, the lift, the raft, the life, the raft, and then declares himself the mayor of Kingstown. Then we roll into the intro. We then cut to Mike McCluskey, Mike's brother, sitting down with a desperate client. The client's son has just hit a prison guard, and the father is upset, and a prison transfer is needed to protect him. Mitch, which is Mike McCluskey's brother, explains that prison he's currently at is the safest one for him. He then instead tells the father to make one thing clear to his son. His only protection will come from the whites. He also instructs him to tear a sheet and rope it, forcing the prison to put the kid on suicide watch. It's cold, it calculated, and it works. Like, honestly, like, when this scene happened, I was just like, damn, like, they really got everything all figured out. Like, the way that they talk about this stuff and the way that they move and the way that they run things and how people trust them, that's a good level of power. And mind you, we find out that Mike does all of this basically for free. Like, he doesn't get paid to do any of this. But people respect him. Somehow or another, he has the money to do this, but yeah. Okay, but anyway, let's get back. That moment shows us exactly who the McCluskey brothers are. Smart, connected, and deeply embedded in the prison system. They don't just understand how Kingstown works. They know how to manipulate it to keep people alive. That opening sequence sets the tone for the entire series. Mitch's death is pretty early in the season and is a turning point for Mike. Mike doesn't even grieve his brother for real. He just goes right back into business as usual after it all happens. Mike isn't just sharing the burden anymore. Every decision, every compromise, every moral sacrifice lands him alone. Mike meets with some prison guards and they talk about the guard's nephew and how he's having a problem at the prison and how the inmates are giving him a hard time. Mike says he'll handle it, showing us how people trust him to make good of situations. We then cut to Mike's mother talking about slavery. Woohoo, yes, educate us, Ma Dukes. Inmates walk up to, this one female inmate walks up to her, because his mother also works in a prison. which is kind of cool. So you have the sons on the street doing street business, and then you have a mom that works in the actual prison system. Okay, so the lady that walks up to her, she mentions that she wants to have Mike do a favor for her. But she also mentions that she's broke. But then Mike's mother tells her not to mention her kids again and basically to kick rocks, giving us a look at how protective Mike's mother is. She is on her sons like that. She don't play around. So then we cut to Mike meeting with his brother Mitch, who tells him about the guards and what they're going through and how they need the nephew to have protection and stuff like that. And they basically say, fuck Mondays, because, we don't like Mondays. Nobody likes Mondays. And then we cut to them meeting with this dude, Bunny. So Bunny is by far one of my favorite characters in the series. And him and Mike's relationship really comes together in the end, and they really play off of each other, and they really need each other, and they're overall really good friends to each other. They really got each other's back. You'll see as the series progresses. And if you don't watch this show, I highly recommend it. I'm mad it got canceled. We have one more season coming out before it's completely done. So he goes to Bunny to talk about the guard's nephew. They want to broker a deal, and the deal is basically Bunny needs them to get some drugs over the wall. Of course, he tells them to just fucking get a whole bunch of tennis balls and start whacking them over. They come to the deal. They close the deal. They agree. And then, that is that. And then we cut to the nephew. We actually get to meet the nephew. And the nephew walks up to an inmate as he's checking all the cells and telling them to go back in their cells, And he basically is being blackmailed by the inmate. The inmate also calls him baby, and he says he owns him. The nephew doesn't take that very well, but he is afraid at first. You could definitely see that he does not want no smoke with this inmate, because he could possibly be going to jail. So the inmate basically says he doesn't want, you don't want me to tell the DEA and stuff like that what's going on here and stuff like that. So then the nephew gets mad and he starts beating him. And then after he beats him, he plants the inmate on top of him and calls for backup. And then the inmate basically beats him damn near half to death before the other guards get to him. So, yeah, that's that. I think this all captures just how gangster this show is. There's an entire prison riot later on in the show which gives some tense scenes in which the SWAT must save Kyle, Mike's younger brother, and they absolutely just start mowing down prisoners. There's a lot of good action scenes in the show. When the action scenes happen, it just... Have you ever watched a show that was so frustrating you almost stopped watching it? Not because it was bad, but because the characters kept making decisions that made absolutely no sense. A lot of people felt that way watching Power, and if you ever watch long enough, you probably know exactly what I mean. The death of James St. Patrick, aka Ghost, at the hands of his own son Tariq St. Patrick was one of those moments that left fans angry, confused, and honestly exhausted. But when I watch Mayor of Kingstown, I never feel that way. And that's one of the biggest reasons why the show works so well. The difference is writing. One thing Mayor of Kingstown does really well is how it handles character decisions. In some crime dramas, characters constantly make choices that feel forced, like the writers are pushing the story forward. more toward chaos instead of letting things develop naturally. But Mayor of Kingstown feels different. The characters live in a brutal system where the streets, the police, and the prison systems are all connected. Because of that, the choices that they make usually feel realistic. You might not agree with what they do, but you understand why they do it. The character deaths that make sense. Another thing the show does right is how it handles characters and their deaths. In some shows, a big death can feel like it's only there for a shock value. It's dramatic in the moment, but later leaves you thinking, why did that happen? But in Mayor of Kingstown, when someone dies, it usually feels like a natural consequence of the world they're living in. The tension builds, the conflict grows, and when something finally happens, it feels earned. That's why the deaths in the show don't make me mad as a viewer. They make sense. Why it's easier to watch. Watching Power sometimes felt stressful. Every episode felt like someone was about to make the worst decision possible. But watching Mayor of Kingstown feels different. The show is intense, but it doesn't feel like it's constantly trying to frustrate the audience. Instead, it focuses on telling a grounded story about power, survival, and complicated systems that control everything in the city. Even the later seasons hold up well. A lot of this show happens to start strong, then fall apart in later seasons. Characters change too much, stories start to feel forced, and the shows lose what made them special in the first place. But Mayor of Kingstown manages to stay consistent. Even in the later seasons, the tone stays the same. The characters still feel believable, and the story never feels like it's betraying its own logic to create drama. In conclusion, that's why Mayor of Kingstown is one of the most underrated crime dramas right now. It doesn't rely on frustrating plot twists, it doesn't force characters into unrealistic decisions, and it doesn't kill people just off the base of shocking the audience. It tells a brutal story in a brutal world, but it does it in a way that actually respects the viewer, and honestly, that's something more shows should learn from.